Umayanatmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurminitanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. And our pranams, our respects to one and all. So we are continuing with our Saturday stream, diving into the stream of the divine inspiration of Srila Rupa Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what is actually the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu coming through the heart and hand of Srila Rupa Goswami. And that is such a great privilege that we're able to do that. So we're going to go ahead to verse number 7. And this is a verse which is very relevant. There is a certain point because the verses of Upadeśāmṛta, they're moving in a systematic way. There's a development that's taking place. There are stages of development taking place. And so I think it's these first 7, which are like addressing us, the conditioned souls. Welcome, Sadhvi. These verses are very relevant, for the souls like ourselves who are very much under the influence of the material energy, but striving to move towards our spiritual identity and spiritual engagement. And so so then at a certain point, and I think it's in the next verse number 8, there's a shift because there's actually progress going on, right? Which, ideally is happening with all of us, although maybe, micro steps. But, eventually, if we are practicing properly, we are connected with the right channel, then there will be progress taking place. And eventually, in this lifetime, 10 lifetimes from now, 100 lifetimes from now, there will be substantial progress and we'll begin to awaken to our spiritual identity. And so then the last verses in Upadeśāmṛta, they are describing that, what's relevant for the enlightened soul. And although those verses may not be relevant for us in a practical way, in a like a tangible, applicable way in our daily lives, they are important for us to have some understanding for, because they are setting what is our ideal. What is our ideal in Krishna consciousness, in the service of Guru and Gauranga? We need to understand where we're headed, right? Otherwise, we can just be floating in in our physical and mental environment of our own attempts to practice Krishna consciousness. But we need to cultivate some feeling of appreciation and attraction for the gift that our gurus are giving us, right? Our gurus want us to awaken to that in a real way. So we need to also understand, our gurus are the captain of the ship, and we need to have some idea of where they're taking us, right? Where they're taking us. So those later verses are very helpful for us in that sense, right? But now we're still in these verses which are more applicable for the conditioned souls such as ourselves. And this verse is quite a well-known verse. Even if someone doesn't know the verse itself, I'm sure everyone here is familiar with what's being discussed in this verse, and the analogy that is given. It's something that's quite widely known, right? And so Rupa Goswami gives this analogy of jaundice. This is a disease of the liver, which causes one to taste sweet as bitter, right? So I've never experienced that, but I've known those who have. And they'll drink a sweet drink and it'll just taste very bitter. But then in Ayurveda, there's one of the remedies for that is rock candy, because it does something to stimulate the bile in the liver. And so it helps the liver to heal. And so this is the curious thing, that the medicine that you're taking, it's tasting bitter in the beginning, but according to the degree of your recovery and healing, you'll begin to taste what is the actual sweetness within that rock candy, within what is actually sweet, right? So similarly, for those in the practicing stage of Krishna consciousness, we are not able to taste the inner sweetness of the pure name, right? And we may not always feel enthusiasm, right, for chanting the name, but we understand it's because we're under the influence of a disease. We are diseased persons, and the cure for that is to chant more, right? So we should not become discouraged if we're not always feeling taste and attraction, but sometimes we just need to take our medicine, right? And, that's not to discount those who do feel enthusiasm for chanting. That that is something valuable, right? But that enthusiasm will not be steady, and will generally be more we will be cautious in saying that is Shuddhana, right? The pure name, right? And whatever sweetness, in other words, whatever sweetness we may feel, because no doubt we do feel something, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't have started this in the first place. We've all had our moments of feeling something substantial in our chanting. But we can think whatever that is, that's like 0.001% of what is the real thing, of what is Shuddhanam, right? We're like, I like one analogy our Gurudev Srila Govinda Maharaj gave once, that we are like on the oven. We're outside the oven. We're feeling some heat, right? We're feeling some heat outside of the oven. He gave this analogy in relation to the holy Dham, the Lord's holy abode, but it is applicable to, all aspects of the Lord. So it's like that, that we are feeling some heat outside of the oven, but inside there's something blazing hot, you know. So like that, we're getting sometimes, right? We're getting some little some little touch, right? And we will think this is being given to us to encourage us, right? And then those moments when we're not feeling enthusiasm, this is the verse that we can remember. This is called sadhana, right? Sadhana means our disciplined life of practicing Krishna consciousness, that we don't always feel the buzz, but we go on day by day because we have faith in the process. So, I always like to remember Gurudev's definition of sadhana: that which we don't want to do, we will happily do. Bite the bullet, as they say. Bite the bullet, dive in, do your duty, go ahead, burn your bridges. There's a war going on. This is the real battlefield. Gotta keep moving. Gotta move ahead with our duty. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he commented once, when we don't have love, we have duty, right? So we have our duty in Krishna consciousness. We're not at the stage of having pure, spontaneous, natural love for the Lord and his holy name, but we have our duty. And sometimes we may feel some touch of love and natural affection. And when we don't, we fall back on our duty, right? And we know there's no other way, there's no other thing. This is the only thing. And we're very fortunate that our gurus have shown us what is the path of reality. What is the path of reality? Our gurus have shown us that what is the path to reality, the beautiful. There's a crack, right? There's a crack in the matrix that's been opened, right? And we gotta try and move through that. There's one very wonderful quote of Guru Dev where he's saying, now the prison gates are open. You remember that, Ananda Krishna? The prison gates are open, and the prison of Maya has been opened, right? Our gurus have opened it, and the prisoners are getting out, So it's like there was that time, President Clinton, he declared an general amnesty, and all the illegal immigrants in America, they were given citizenship, Sometimes, historically, governments will do that, like if for some special, to celebrate something or to show some mood of mercy, they'll forgive all the criminals, or in this case, Clinton. And one of our god sisters, she got in on that one. I don't know if that would happen with the current administration. But anyway, so he declared this amnesty for all the illegal immigrants in America, and they're all granted citizenship. So like that, like we're in the matrix, the souls in this world, we're in the matrix, we're under the web of illusion, but our gurus have made an opening, right? They're giving us an opening. And so we got to move forward with that, Gurudev, in one of his talks, he said, we've been given we have one thread from our Guru Maharaj. We're hanging on to one thread. And if we can do that, if we can continue to hang on to that, we will have no worry. We have no worry in our spiritual life. And so that's our program. That's our program. Okay, so we can go on to the verse. And we had a few others. Suvasini Didi's with us. Somya Sham, Vijayananda Prabhu is with us. Ramananda Prabhu is with us. Welcome. Happy to have all of you with us today. So here we are, verse number 7. Sad Krishna Nama Charitari Sitapya Vidya Pitopatapta Rasanasya Narochikanu Kintwadara Anudinam Kalu Saiva Jushta Swadvi Pramad Bhavati Tadgada Mula Hanchi. Chaitanya Dai just joined us too. Wonderful. So the sugar candy of Krishna's names, pastimes, and so forth is not relishable to a tongue severely afflicted by the jaundice of ignorance. Alas, certainly, however, when it is daily honored with faith, this candy gradually becomes sweet and eradicates the disease. So it is this faith, right? This is the magical ingredient. This is the active ingredient, the spirit of faith and surrender, right? This is where the chemistry takes place, that as we were saying, right, even if we're not in the mood of feeling the enthusiasm, feeling the sweetness, but we have faith, right? So we are taking that name with faith, with Shraddha, with some attachment to Sri Guru. And that is the active ingredient, that is where the chemistry happens, and that is where the purification takes place, and it is as it very specifically mentions here, gradually, kramat, right? Kramat, it is a gradual process, and it is like that with anything in life, right? If there's some, sometimes I give the analogy, right? The difference between curing an acute illness versus a chronic illness, right? If you have an acute illness, it's very straightforward. You have a cold, you take your lemon, ginger, and honey, or whatever it is, or you cut your finger, you put some tea tree and a band-aid or whatever it is, boss, done, over. But when you have a chronic illness, it's a completely different story. Completely different story. And it can be tiring, actually, for anyone who's ever experienced, chronic illness that's built up over years. It's like deep set in your system. It's tiring, day by day. You have to address the issue. It can get tiresome. And so in the same way, the disease of mundanity, it's become deeply rooted in us, the covering, the covering over our soul. We are in this topsy-turvy condition of identifying with that cover. Viparya yo smriti, it is described as in Srimad Bhagavatam, viparya yo smriti, this opposite conception of the self. So it's and it's something that's been going on, what to speak of a few years, it's been going on for how many lifetimes we don't know, we can't say. And so it's a chronic disease, and so that means it takes time, and it means persistence, right? And that's something that was mentioned in the third verse of Upadeśāmṛta, right? Daryat, right? This patience, this persistence, this determination to day by day stick to the program, as we were saying. Remember the grand plan, right? Remember the grand plan. Remember the master plan, right? Day by day, our mind and our senses and our ego, they can derail us, right? That's something that Gurudev used to say sometimes, that we will not be derailed, just like a train has to stay on track, right? A train has its destination. And so in our daily lives, it's so easy for us to get derailed by 1,000,001 different things that come up from different planes of existence, the different layers of mind, body, ego, senses, all these things. They all have their own needs and their own desires. They all want their own food. It can be bewildering, right? Especially in this age, right? In this age of technology, this age of information, this age of consumerism, right? It's so easy to get distracted, right? So, and what to speak of all the different ego things and emotional issues and mental issues and all these other more subtle things that can also derail us, right? So this is why we have to keep tuning in, right? To hear the word of Shabda, right? To hear the divine sound. What's the word? What's the word? People sometimes have this word for the day thing, right? So we need to tune into our word for the day within the realm of revealed truth, within the realm of Shabda, right? And that will help us to stay on track, right? Stay on the straight road, not be derailed. Remember the grand plan, right? And keep our eye on the goal, right? Just like Arjuna with his pointing his arrow right at the eye of the bird, right? And not seeing anything else, right? This is our daily challenge in Krishna consciousness, to remember what is our actual program and to be able to stick to that day by day, because it is, as we're told here in the seventh verse of Upadeśāmṛta, it is a gradual process. It is a gradual process. Day by day, the disease of material existence is being slowly cleared, right? As much as we can come under the influence, as much as we can expose ourselves to the purifying nature of Krishna consciousness. And that means, Hari Nam, Hari Katha, Sadhu Sangha, all of these things. As much as we can expose ourselves to these things, to that extent, we will be purified. So this is our daily practice, right? Okay, we can go ahead to Srila Sridhar Maharaj's illumination. And this is another long one. I think we'll see. We'll see how we go. All right, here we are. So illumination by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. There is a disease known as jaundice produced by excessive bile in the body. This disease affects the tongue and causes sweet things to taste bitter. When someone with this disease eats sugar candy, the candy tastes bitter. It is said, however, that sweets like sugar candy are the best medicine to drive away jaundice. So the sugar candy tastes bitter at first, but as more and more of it is taken, the disease is gradually cured, and the sugar candy's taste becomes sweeter and sweeter. Once the disease is completely removed, the sugar candy tastes very sweet. Srila Rupa Goswami says that when our inner tongue comes under the influence of ignorance, avidya, the name of Krishna tastes very bitter to us. But Krishna's name is also the medicine to remove this disease from our inner tongue. So Krishna's name may seem very bitter or unpleasing to us at present. But if we apply this unpleasing medicine for some time, our ignorance will be removed and we will find the name to be very, very sweet. Raso vai sa. Slowly, gradually, the name will come with his glorious sweetness, cure our ignorance, and charm our whole existence. In the first stage, the taste is bitter. In the second stage, the taste starts to become sweet. In the third stage, the taste becomes completely sweet. And in the fourth stage, we function normally. So in the beginning, the name is felt to be material. In the second stage, his supernatural position gradually comes out. In the third stage, the name's inner sweetness opens up to us. And in the fourth stage, we can engage in real bhajan. The stage of real service begins because our service becomes automatic and spontaneous. Before that, our attempt is labored, aiming at the desired result. When the taste becomes sweet, then only on the basis of that, natural service begins. We reach the stage of bhajan, the fourth stage. Then the name will divulge his rupa, form and beauty, and then his guna, lila, padikar, and vaishishta, qualities, pastimes, associates, and excellence. In this way, it goes up. So these, we hear, right, that the Lord, he appears in these principal ways, nama, guna, rupa, and lila. His name, his form or his beauty, his qualities, and then ultimately his pastimes. And so we hear the name, right, is the key, right? And it's an interesting thing. I mean, it's inconceivable for us, but we're told that here sound is the most subtle thing. But in the spiritual world, it is not so. It is rather the other way, that sound is less subtle, and through sound we can connect with these more subtle aspects of the Lord's existence, right? And so sound is the first contact for us with that upper world, and that is the key to unlock our experience of these other aspects of the Lord. In the beginning, with the help of Shraddha, faith, we are to take the name. And the name may not be felt to be very sweet at that time. Krishna's name is not bitter. It is not a dry or filthy thing. But according to our stage, the stage of the receiver, the name may seem like that. Krishna is self-existent, as light is self-evident. But to a blind person, that has no meaning. I was discussing this a few days ago. I met one young man in a park nearby, and he was like, just expressing how he felt, God and spiritual realities, religion just feels like there's no relevance. And there's no, he's saying it has no relevance in my daily life. Like, how is it relevant? And this was one thing that I mentioned to him, that if it comes down to our capacity to perceive, right? And if someone is blind, they cannot see the sun. It simply comes down to that. You can argue with someone for hours and trying to use logic or scriptural statements or whatever it may be, but no matter how reasonable your argument is, if they have not been graced with the vision to be able to perceive the value of that plane, then it's no good. It comes down to that. And that was also the answer Srila Sridhar Maharaj gave once when someone was asking him, for proof of this, that the Atma exists. What is the proof that the plane of spirit exists? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he quoted this verse in Bhagavatam stating this point, that this debate will continue forever, but ultimately it comes down to this, who has the eyes to see, they will see. Who doesn't have the eyes to see, they will not see, right? So that higher, more subtle world, it does exist. It is there, and as our Gurudev would say, the scriptures are not lying to us, right? Even in a material way, we can say, right? Because the scriptures have different departments. The Vedic texts, they have their material departments and their spiritual departments. And even now, the material departments of the Vedas are being confirmed in so many ways by modern technology, modern science. So doesn't that tell us something? What it is telling us about the plane of spirit, that also must have some validity. This is all very ancient knowledge, right? Ancient knowledge. It's funny, lately I've been hearing about these different companies around the world who tried to patent different remedies given in the scriptures. Right? It's ridiculous. This is ancient, and Indian people are like, this is ancient knowledge, we've all grown up with. And how can you say this is your property, right? So we know that there's value in that. That's something that can be verified by our senses. So then that also tells us if we need this type of confirmation, this type of evidence, that also tells us what it is telling on the subtle side, what it is telling on the spiritual side. There's also something there. So we have faith. We have faith, right? And so they are telling us that world does exist, that higher plane does exist, and they're giving us the steps to follow to develop the eyes to see, right? To develop the eyes to see. We know that world is there. What we need is the eye to see that, that is our only necessity. So our gurus have that vision, right? Our gurus have those eyes. And so we are offering our service to them, and by their grace, they will give us that that vision. Premanjanadrita bhakti vilochanena. So Krishna is self-existent, as light is self-evident, but to a blind person that has no meaning. Our Guru Maharaj used to give an example in this regard. A boy is born in a dark prison house. From outside, a gentleman comes to the boy and says, "Come with me, I will show you the sun." The boy replies, "Yes, let us see the sun," and picks up a candle. The gentleman says, "There is no necessity of a candle to see the sun." "Am I a fool?" replies the boy. "Nothing can be seen without the help of a light." The gentleman drags the boy outside, and when the boy sees the sun, he exclaims, "Oh, we can see the sun by its own light." Krishna is self-effulgent. He does not depend on any other thing to make himself known. Still, there is a section that cannot conceive of this. That is a defect in them. Krishna and Krishna's service are sweet, but to some they may taste bitter because of a defect in their existence, ignorance. Ke ami, kene amai, jade tapachai, ihanahi jani, kemone hita hoy, kame sab tattva shuno, kohiye tomate. So these are the questions that Sanatana Goswami asked. I think it's 5 questions in total that Sanatana Goswami asks in when he has that crucial meeting with Mahaprabhu in Varanasi. Mahaprabhu instructs him for 2 months in the science of Krishna. And so this is how the conversation begins, who am I? Why am I suffering? We have here the direct translation. Sanatana Goswami inquired, "Who am I? Why do the 3 miseries, the miseries arising from the self, from other beings, and from the forces of nature, why do they afflict me? I cannot understand this. How can I be benefited?" Mahaprabhu replied, "Gradually listen to all these principles as I speak them to you." Sriman Mahaprabhu gradually described everything in detail to Sanatana Goswami. What is what, who we are, and how we will be benefited. And these are the things, right, that we want to be thinking about all the time, right? Going back to what we were saying earlier, right? To be able to remember what is the grand plan day by day and not to get caught up by all the little side missions that may come up, There is one talk where Gurudev, and it's recorded, I believe, in Revealed Truth in that book, where he's saying like the conditioned souls, they're generally thinking, what will I have for breakfast? What will I have for lunch? Right? We're often concerned with all these little things, right? But these are the real questions, right? These are the real questions. And in Bhagavatam, right, Parikshit Maharaj, it all starts with Parikshit Maharaj on the verge of death, right? He has 7 days left to live, and then everything begins with him asking Shukadev Goswami, how can I achieve my highest benefit for someone who's about to leave the world? What's the best thing I could do? And Shukadev Goswami replies by saying, "This is the question, right? This is the only question. This is what we should all be concerned with, day by day. Who am I? Why am I here? How can I attain my highest benefit?" All of these things. These are the questions we want to be asking at every moment. Jiver Srupa Hoy Krishna Nityada. So this is the verse that every good Hare Krishna knows, right? And I think everyone here knows, and if you don't know it, please learn it. at least the translation. But everyone here knows this verse. Jiver Srupa Hoy Krishna. This is up with Sarva Dharmam Prityaja, right? The Bhagavad Gita Clarion Call 1866, and everybody knows. So What is the constitutional nature of every living being? Krishna Nitya Das, an eternal servant of Krishna. Jiva is Rupa Hoy, Krishna Nitya Das, Krishna Tatasta Shakti, Beda Bed Prakash. The nature, so this is Mahaprabhu's response, right? And when Sanatan asks these questions. The nature of the jiva is that of an eternal servant of Krishna. The jiva is Krishna's marginal energy, a manifestation both different and non-different from Krishna. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj characteristically gets straight to the point. In a nutshell, he said that we are slaves. It's not normally how we translate it, right? But that's really what it means. We are slaves. Like, oh, sorry, did you not know that? Did you not read the fine print? Yeah, that's what we are. We're slaves. But we are slaves of beauty. We are slaves of love because that is Krishna. We were going through that foreword, right, of Prabhupada Jivanamrita, so beautiful, and we didn't come to that part yet, but one of my favorite sentences there is he saying, we are slaves, but we are slaves to the great force of love and beauty. What a wonderful thing. People aren't ashamed to say, I'm a slave of love, right, in this world. That's not a shameful position to say that I am a slave of love. That's something to be appreciated, right? That's something to be honored. And so that's really what we're talking about here. Who is Krishna? He is the all attractive, right? He is all beautiful, all loving, all attractive. And he is capturing us by his beauty, by his love. Bhajaniya guna vishishta. This is an explanation that Jiva Goswami gives, right? That he's attracting us irresistibly in this way, not by power, not by his might or his majesty, by force, but irresistibly through the irresistible force of natural attraction, love, and affection. So in a nutshell, he said that we are slaves of Krishna. This is the clarion call in a grand voice that was declared first with so much pride, such magnanimous pride by Sriman Mahaprabhu. The soul has such a dignified position, but now in the garb of a master, the soul is a slave of Maya, ignorance. The soul's real position, innate position, is of such a high order that Krishna has autocratic power over them. This is the thing, right? And this is one of the things in the fine print, right? That we cannot avoid that nature of being a servant, of being a slave, right? And when we came to explore the material energy, that's one of the clauses. Like, yes, you can come and experience something of being a master, being an independent master and controller, but ultimately you are also a slave, right? Because you can't avoid that. That's just inherently your nature. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj is saying here, in our condition here, we're actually a slave of Maya, right? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj also has that very nice expression, freedom of the senses or freedom from the senses, right? Generally, in our modern humanistic society, it's freedom of the senses that's being celebrated and pursued, right? But in the name of freedom, what you're actually doing is becoming a slave of your senses, right? You're becoming controlled by your senses. So that is not real freedom. And so freedom from the need to have that fulfillment of the senses, that is the real position to aspire for. That is real freedom. The soul's real position, innate position, is of such a high order that Krishna has autocratic power over them. So fortunate are they. The soul is so fortunate to have innately such a close connection with Krishna. But at present, this is not found. It is in the soul's prospect, but the soul comes from the line of demarcation, the marginal potency of Krishna, Tatastha Shakti. So the soul's entrance into Maya is possible. Otherwise, it could not have happened. The soul has adaptability for both sides. The holy name, the sound representation of the Lord, extends down to the soul suffering in ignorance. We have quotation here from Gitavali. This is by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I believe. Shinam Chintamani Tohali Samana Vishwe Bilauli Karuna Nidana. Oh, this is one of the Shikshashtakam songs that we sing, right? Your name is a wish-fulfilling jewel equal to you, and you have given your name to this world, O ocean of mercy. It is said that the sound aspect of Krishna, the name of Krishna, is even more benevolent than Krishna himself towards the fallen. Right? So this is, and I believe this is richly mentioned in the writings of Rupa Goswami, that the, we always hear this, right? That the name and the Lord's form, they are non-different, right? Nam and Nami, the name and the name, they are non-different. So contacting the holy name is the same as contacting the Lord himself. However, there is actually one difference mentioned by our gurus, that the name is even more merciful. The name is more merciful than Krishna's form, Krishna's person. So it is the great gift, right, of Kali Yuga. It is the great gift of Kali Yuga, the connection of the holy name, most merciful aspect of the Lord. Ek bar Krishna name jata pap hare, pata ki sadhya nahi tatta papa kore. One name of Krishna can remove so much ignorance that a man has no power to commit that much sin. But what is that name? We are taking the name so many times, but we have not attained the result of chanting the name, even once. Why? Namakshar bahirai vate. This ordinary physical sounds cannot represent the real name, which is supernatural. This is an expression of Jagadananda Pandit, Prema Vivarta, right? That the syllables of the name, they do not equal the name itself. It is not such a straightforward thing, right? So in other words, that vibration that you're making, that may be something material connected with the external aspect of the name. The ordinary name, the superficial, illusory name, and the real name have great difference between them. The real name is one and the same with the Lord, and that name comes down to our level. We cannot take that name by dint of our tongue or lips. The name is not lip deep, but heart deep, and beyond the human heart also. The name of Krishna that comes down through the heart and then onto the lips and tongue is the real name of Krishna. This means Krishna in the form of sound comes down from the transcendental world into my heart, and from my heart, controlling my entire nervous system. He comes onto my lips and dances there. Wow, that is the name. That is the real name that we are interested in. The name of Krishna that comes down through the heart and then onto the lips and tongue is the real name of Krishna. This means Krishna in the form of sound comes down from the transcendental world into my heart, and from my heart, controlling my entire nervous system, he comes onto my lips and dances there. That is the name. That is the name that we aspire to have some touch of. And we can also mention here, right, that, we want to remember that, right, because we don't want to cheat ourselves, right? As we said earlier, of course, we will get some touch in our own chanting sometimes, right? We will get something, right? Some touch of that pure thing. But we don't want to be satisfied with that, right? And we don't want to cheat ourselves. And we want to remember that whatever I am experiencing now at my level, this is minuscule, right? Compared to the original pure sound of Shuddha Nam, the pure original name that is coming from above, right? And so we want to hang out for that. We don't want to think prematurely that we are chanting the holy name. That's what I want to say, because there are those who do that, right? And okay, it's good that they are satisfied with that, but we want to hold out for something more. We want to hold out for something more. We are the chatak birds, right? We are holding out for the pure thing. Right? And we are fortunate because our gurus are holding that. Our gurus are holding that. They are the possessors of that. And we have connection with them. We are serving them. The initiative is in the transcendental world. It is not something produced from the physical plane. Krishna can come down, but we cannot easily go up. So this is what is avaroha panta, right? This is what it means, the descending versus aroha, ascending, self-ascending. We're interested in the descending path where Krishna comes down, because if we try and go up by ourselves, we hit a ceiling. There's a certain point where we can't go any further, right? But if we can invite the Lord and his agents in the descending process, we are connecting with infinity. We are connecting with an unlimited flow. And that's what we are interested in. Krishna can come down, but we cannot easily go up. He is the super subject, and we are an object to him. So we cannot interfere with his independence. We cannot interfere with his independence. So that's what surrender is, right? Krishna, you can work your will over me. Of course, it's a risky thing because it may not always be to our taste how he chooses to exert his will over us. But with faith, we understand that howsoever it's coming, it's all grace. And it's just the medicine that we need, right? Whether it is something comforting or whether it's something challenging, it's all grace. It's all coming from that upper spirit. So that is what surrender is, that we are embracing it howsoever it comes, because it's coming from Krishna's side, and Krishna is our best friend. So so when we have those opportunities to face some challenging circumstance, that is an opportunity to show our faith, to show our surrender to Krishna's will. We're not fighting against it. If we're fighting against it, that's denying the significance of surrender, right? What is the whole meaning of surrender? That we're embracing it however it comes, right? That is what is surrender, that it may not always be tasteful, may not always be comfortable, but this is Krishna's prasadam. This is the prasadam that he's putting on my plate in front of me, and I'm going to eat it happily. That is surrender. So we cannot interfere with his independence. He is the super subject and we are an object to him. We cannot interfere with his independence. Only by the negative, by our attraction, by our surrender, can we attract him to come down to our level. Right? So by embracing that, we're saying, I'm ready, Krishna, bring it on. Right? And he will come closer to us. He will come closer to us. That is the wonderful thing. If he himself, out of his grace, comes down attracted by our serving nature. Right? Sevan muke hi jiva dao. So this is Srila Maharaj here is referring to this important statement coming from Rupa Goswami. right? Atashi Krishna Namadi, right? This is an important verse for us. Atashi Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Grahim Indriyai Sevan Mukhe Jivada Swayameva Sporchida. This is so crucial, so fundamental for anyone who's mature and serious about making advancement in Krishna consciousness, that world is beyond the purview of our senses, right? It is far beyond, right? So in other words, we cannot perceive that plane with our ordinary senses and powers of perception. It's not going to be like that. It's not that we can put it under the microscope, put it in our pocket, blast it on Instagram or whatever, right? It's beyond anything we can touch. It's beyond the reach of our senses. It is independent in that sense. So then what's the answer? How do we make the connection? Sevan mukehi jivada. By the spirit of service, he may be moved. By our desire to give ourselves to that plane, right? Not to make it an object of our senses or to control it or master it or make a chain of it and whatever you call it, market it, control it in some way, but that we want to serve it, that we want to give ourselves to it. That is what will attract him to descend. That is what will attract the name to come to meet us. That's the meeting point, our spirit of surrender and our spirit of self-giving. That is the meeting point. That's the bridge. That's the bridge between us and the upper world. And there are those who can understand that, and there are those who don't, right? And this point distinguishes those who are seriously practicing Krishna consciousness and those who are dabbling, you could say. It's also nice to dabble, right? But at a certain point, let's go deeper, right? Let's get serious. So he himself, out of his grace, comes down attracted by our serving nature. Then he influences the elements and produces the sound, and that is his dancing there. That is Vaikuntha Nam, the real name. We cannot produce that name. The sound of our physical or mental production is not him. He is separate, but he can come down everywhere in any form, in any plane, because he is controlling everything. Prakritim swam adhishtaya sambhavyatma mayaya. This is from Bhagavad Gita. When I come here by the force of my internal potency, I remove the external potency's influence and appear anywhere and everywhere. And our Gurudev, he mentioned this point in regards to the word Vaikuntha, right? Vaikuntha is the name for the spiritual world. And one meaning of Vaikuntha is that which has no limit. It is unlimited. And so he said one way we can understand that is that world can appear anywhere. It doesn't have the ordinary limits of this world that we are familiar with. But that upper world, it has no limits. It can extend itself anywhere where it so chooses, where it's attracted to reveal itself, right? So that upper world can descend into this plane if it is a favorable, attractive environment. So this verse in Gita is saying, right, that Krishna can remove the cover of Mahamaya and can reveal himself through the potency of Yoga Maya, the spiritual potency. As an airplane flies through the sky, it removes the air and forcibly passes by. Similarly, by removing the influence of material things, he comes with his own force to appear here. Prakritim swam adhishtaya sambhavam yatma mayaya. I have my own potency. And by the power of that potency, I remove this gross potency and live, move, and act here. The laws of material nature cannot apply to him. He has special power. With the help of that, he subdues the law of this nature and he comes here. Whatever he does with his own potency, and wherever he goes, the laws of nature withdraw and give way to him. Srila Sridhar Maharaj also mentioned this point in regards to the Govardhan Leela, because someone may say, how can we understand, he's lifting this great mountain with the pinky of his left hand. But he makes the rules and he can break the rules, right? So if he wishes, he can remove the material laws, right? So what is gravity, right, to Krishna? Right? He made gravity. So if he chooses, he can remove that, right? It is as simple as that. Shinvatam Swa, this is a beautiful verse from Bhagavatam. And now this is from a different talk here, because remember, this is a compilation from different talks, and I recognize this. This is from another talk. Very, very nice talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. I actually did a transcription of this talk once, and I memorized this verse just from hearing Srila Sridhar Maharaj repeating it. Very wonderful verse. Shinvatam svakata Krishna punya shavana kirtana hridyantasto hebadrani vidunoti suhritsatam. Whatever undesirable, ungentle, or awkward things may be within us are all brushed aside by Krishna consciousness. So this word, the word Bhadra, means something that is good or auspicious. Like you'll hear in Bengal sometimes this expression, Bhadra Lok, means like good people, decent people, pious people. So Abhadra means just the opposite of that. What is not nice, what is, as Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, undesirable, ungentle, awkward, right? Bhadra, that could mean like a gentleman or a gentlewoman, high-class people. So Abhadra, the opposite of that. Right? So our hearts are full of that which is Abhadra, right? Not so nice, some dark corners there, not a pretty picture all the time, to say the least. So all of these things, they're all brushed aside by Krishna consciousness. Hridyanta, what is in the heart, all these things within the heart. Vidunoti suhritsatam. They will be clear, they will be purified. How? Shinvatam svakata Krishna punya shavana kirtana. By this purifying power of hearing and chanting the glories of Krishna. This is the most purifying thing in this world. As when the sun rises, all sorts of darkness retire. So all different types of misconceptions and separate interests in the world of misunderstanding are removed by Krishna consciousness. When we successfully march according to the universal interest of the whole, that is, Krishna consciousness of the Absolute, when we throw ourselves into Krishna consciousness, then so many forms of misconception and layers of separate consciousness retire. When we prepare ourselves and then throw ourselves into the universal flow, all selfish agents have to retire once and for all. They cannot find any of their interests in the ocean of Krishna consciousness. It is so harmonizing, so forceful, so accommodating, and so purifying that nothing can stand against it. Hridyantasto hebadrani. No ungentle things can have any stand in our hearts. Krishna himself and his agents are wandering here, there, and everywhere, and they won't tolerate that those dedicated to Krishna will again be influenced or captured by the unholy agents of the world of misunderstanding. There's Ananta, could you turn off the screen share? I think we'll just finish there. There's one place where Srila Sridhar Maharaj, I think it's in Sri Guru and His Grace, actually, where Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he speaks about our invisible guardians, right? Our invisible guardians. And that's very comforting, right? Very comforting to all of us that we are not alone. Although at different times in our practicing life, we may feel like that. But this is a very comforting thought that we have so many invisible gurus, invisible guardians. They are all there. They are all alive in the subtle world, and they are looking over us, right? They are looking over us, and we have that beautiful expression of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, right? Loving search for the lost servant. Loving search for the lost servant. So they are looking out for us. And even if at different times in our practicing life, we may feel ourselves being captured by the material energy, coming under the influence of different forces, right? We can take some comfort in that thought. They will take care of me, right? They will take care of me. They are there. They are there. So it is a very, very comforting thought. And the way Srila Sridhar Maharaj phrases it there is so sweet, right? That they are wandering here and there and everywhere. They won't tolerate that we will be lost, that we will lose our way, right? They are watching over us. So that is very comforting to us. All right. Well, we're just about at the end of our time. Does anyone want to add any final thoughts or bring up any point we discussed today before we end? Should we close there? So happy to be going through this important work. Right? This is one of the most important texts. We don't read everything from Srila Rupa Goswami and from the six Goswamis, right? But this is one book that has been emphasized for us, and by the grace of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because as I seem to recall, this book was almost lost, right? But it was Bhaktivinoda Thakur who, put it into circulation again, right? Revived that, and it's been, it's now so easily available for us, And so by the grace of you all, we're taking this time to come together and tune in to this divine stream. All right. We're very happy to see all of you. Hope everyone is well. And we'll close here for today then. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, all the assembled devotees, sincere seekers ki Jai, Sri Upadeśāmṛta ki Jai, Shri Rupa Goswami ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Tari Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol. See you all next time.